I still remember the exact moment I realized I had won the lottery. $5.2 million. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely hold the ticket. After years of struggling with student loans and living paycheck to paycheck, I finally saw a way out. My first thought was paying off my debt and maybe buying a modest house with a yard. I immediately called my parents, despite our strained relationship. Their sudden enthusiasm should have been my first warning sign. Looking back, I should have noticed how quickly they asked about Travis, my younger brother, their golden child. Before I tell you how my life turned upside down, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button if you have ever felt like the black sheep in your family. Growing up in my house meant constantly living in the shadow of my younger brother Travis. From the moment he was born, it seemed like my parents only had eyes for him. I cannot recall a single time when my parents attended one of my academic competitions or science fairs, but they never missed any of Travis's football games or school plays. Even when I won first place in the state computer programming contest during my senior year, my parents skipped it because Travis had a regular season game the same day. The pattern continued throughout our childhood. When Travis wanted the newest video game console, my parents bought it without hesitation. When I needed a computer for my coding projects, I had to work at the local grocery store for 6 months to save up. By 16, I was working 20 hours a week while maintaining straight, as not because I wanted spending money, but because I knew college would be on my shoulders. Sure enough, when Travis graduated high school with barely passing grades, my parents paid his full tuition to an expensive private university and bought him a $30,000 car as a graduation gift. Meanwhile, I had graduated valedictorian and earned a partial scholarship to study computer science, but still had to take out substantial loans to cover the rest. My parents dismissed my degree choice as just playing with computers all day, while they bragged to everyone about how Travis was going to be a doctor someday. By the time I reached 33, I had built a life separate from my family. I worked as a software developer at a small but promising tech company. The pay was decent but not spectacular, especially considering I still had $78,000 in student loan debt hanging over my head. I lived in a tiny apartment with a roommate to keep costs down, drove a 10-year-old car, and limited my contact with my parents to obligatory holiday visits. While Travis continued to receive financial support well into his 20s, I learned to rely on myself and build my own support network of close friends who became more like family than my actual relatives ever were. The day I bought the lottery ticket was nothing special. It had been a particularly rough day at work, with a major project deadline moved up unexpectedly and my boss breathing down my neck about bugs in the code that were not even my responsibility. I stopped at a gas station on my way home, exhausted and frustrated. On impulse, I spent my last $10 in my wallet on a lottery ticket, something I rarely did. Then I promptly forgot about it. A few days later, while doing laundry, I found the crumpled ticket in my jeans pocket. I almost threw it away, but decided to check the numbers on my phone first. The first number matched, then the second. By the fourth matching number, my heart was pounding. When all 6 numbers aligned perfectly with my ticket, I had to sit down on my laundry basket. I checked and rechecked the numbers, at least 20 times convinced I was seeing things. After the initial shock wore off, I approached my newfound wealth with the same practical mindset I applied to everything else in my life. I researched reputable financial advisors and scheduled consultations with 3 before choosing one. I learned about tax implications and set aside a significant portion for the inevitable tax bill. I drafted conservative investment plans that would provide long-term security rather than flashy short-term gains. My dreams were modest but meaningful. I would pay off my student loans, entirely purchase a small but comfortable house with a yard where I could garden, set aside money for retirement, and perhaps have enough left to start my own small software company someday. Nothing extravagant, just financial security and the freedom to make choices without constant money stress. The thought of that simple freedom brought tears to my eyes. 3 weeks after confirming my lottery win, I received an unexpected phone call from my mother. Her voice was warm and enthusiastic, in a way I had rarely heard directed toward me. "Riley, sweetheart, we have not had a proper family dinner in ages. Your father and I would love for you to come over this Sunday." The invitation caught me off guard. In the past 5 years, I had initiated every family gathering, usually met with lukewarm responses about how busy everyone was with Travis's activities or studies. "Is there a special occasion?" I asked cautiously. "Does a mother need an occasion to want to see her son?" she replied, sounding almost hurt. "I will make your favorite pot roast the way you liked it as a child." The fact that she remembered my favorite meal surprised me even more. A small, hopeful part of me wondered if perhaps my parents were genuinely trying to reconnect. Maybe they had realized how distant our relationship had become and wanted to make amends. "Sure, Mom, that sounds nice. Should I bring anything just yourself, dear?" 6 o'clock sharp. I spent an unreasonable amount of time getting ready that Sunday, trying on 3 different outfits before settling on a button-down shirt and nice jeans. I even bought an expensive bottle of wine as a peace offering. During the 45-minute drive to my childhood home, I rehearsed conversations in my head, imagining a genuine reconciliation where my parents finally saw me as the successful adult to I had become lottery winnings aside. The house looked exactly the same as it had during my childhood, though the garden my mother once maintained meticulously showed signs of neglect. My father answered the door with a broad smile I could not remember ever being directed at me before. "There is my boy," he exclaimed, pulling me into an awkward hug. Come in, come in. Your mother has been cooking all day." The smell of pot roast filled the house, along with freshly baked rolls and apple pie. My mother emerged from the kitchen wearing an apron, her hair neatly styled, looking more put together than I had seen her in years. "Riley, you look so handsome," she said, kissing my cheek. "Have you lost weight?" Throughout dinner, my parents showered me with attention and questions about my life. My father asked detailed questions about my job, feigning interest in software development that he had previously dismissed. My mother served me the largest portions and kept insisting I take seconds. When I asked about Travis, they exchanged a quick glance. "Oh, he is studying abroad this semester," my mother said vaguely. Such a wonderful opportunity for his medical career. As the meal progressed, I felt increasingly uncomfortable with their excessive warmth. It felt performative, like watching actors play the role of doting parents. There was an underlying tension in their smiles, a calculated quality to their questions. Still, I answered politely, part of me still wanting to believe this could be a turning point in our relationship. After dessert, my father suggested we move to the living room for coffee. Once we were settled, my mother placed her cup down with a deliberate clink and folded her hands in her lap. "Riley, we wanted to talk to you about your recent good fortune," she said, her voice suddenly more businesslike. "Your lottery win," my father clarified unnecessarily. "We have been thinking about how this could benefit the entire family." The knot in my stomach tightened. Here it was the real reason for the dinner. "We have a plan," my father continued, leaning forward. "A family plan that makes sense for everyone." The plan, as they outlined it, was simple. Travis needed $2 million to complete medical school cover, living expenses, and start his practice. My parents needed $1 million for their retirement, and to pay off their mortgage, I would get whatever was left after taxes, which they estimated would be around $500,000. "Travis has such potential," my mother said, her eyes welling with tears. "He could save so many lives as a surgeon, but the debt would be crippling without help. And we are not getting any younger," my father added. "We have worked hard all our lives. This would secure our retirement and give Travis the start he deserves." When I did not immediately agree, the manipulation intensified. "After everything we have done for you," my mother said, her voice quivering. "All the sacrifices we made, family takes care of family," my father stated firmly. "This is your duty as our son." I sat there stunned at their audacity. What sacrifices exactly? I finally asked. You paid for nothing in my adult life. I worked through college while you paid every cent for Travis. That is not true, my mother gasped. We supported you. We raised you. You did the bare minimum, I replied, my voice steady despite my racing heart. And now you want most of my lottery winnings because Travis needs it. What happened to the money you set aside for his education? What happened to all his scholarships you bragged about? Their faces hardened simultaneously. My father's cheeks flushed red. The point is, we have already promised Travis the money, he said. He is counting on it. We all are. Without consulting me, without even asking if I would be willing to help, I shook my head in disbelief. I would be happy to help Travis with some tuition costs, but $2 million is ridiculous, and I am certainly not giving you $1 million when you have never supported me. The living room temperature seemed to drop 20 degrees as my father stood up, looming over me. You selfish, ungrateful child, he spat. His friendly facade completely vanished. After everything we have done for you, this is how you repay us. By hoarding your good fortune. My mother began sobbing dramatically into a tissue. I always knew you were difficult, Riley. Always fighting us, always wanting your own way. Not like Travis. He understands family loyalty. Family loyalty. The words escaped me as a bitter laugh. Where was that loyalty when I needed help with college, or when I was working 2 jobs to make ends meet? You have given Travis everything his entire life, while I got nothing. That is not true, my father shouted. We gave you a roof over your head, food on the table. Basic parental obligations are not special favors, I replied, standing my ground. And speaking of Travis and medical school, when exactly did he get accepted? Last I heard, he failed out of his undergraduate program. Twice. My parents exchanged another glance. This one panicked. I continued, emboldened by their reaction. And that car you bought him, the $30,000 one? Did you know he crashed it 3 months later, driving drunk? A friend from home told me you bought him another one. That was different, my mother stammered. He was going through a difficult time. We all go through difficult times, I replied. The difference is I handled mine alone while Travis got bailed out repeatedly. My father's face contorted with rage. Enough. We are done discussing this. Either you sign over power of attorney to us to handle this windfall properly, or we will contest the lottery win in court. I stared at him in disbelief. Contest it? On what grounds? You live under our family insurance policy, he said triumphantly. That makes your winnings partially ours. Our lawyer already confirmed it. This was a blatant lie. I had my own insurance for years, but the fact that they would make up such a claim showed how desperate they were. I am not signing anything, I said firmly. This is my money, and I will decide how to use it. I am happy to help Travis with some reasonable tuition costs, but I am not funding his entire life and your retirement. My father pointed toward the door, his hand shaking with fury. Get out of my house. Now. If you cannot do this one thing for your family, you are no son of mine. My mother stood beside him, arms crossed. I have no son who would behave this way. Do not bother coming for Christmas this year, or ever again. The drive back to my apartment passed in a blur of pain and shock. Had my parents always seen me merely as a resource to be used? Had they ever loved me at all? I questioned my own judgment, wondering if I was being selfish. Maybe family did deserve my winnings more than I did. Maybe I owed them everything. The next week was the darkest of my life. I barely ate or slept. I called in sick to work and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed constantly with texts and calls from my parents, each message more manipulative than the last. Your brother is devastated. He was counting on you. We raised you better than this. This will destroy our family forever. Eventually, Travis himself began texting, alternating between guilt trips and outright threats. I thought you were better than this. Guess you have always been jealous of me. Dad is talking to lawyers. You will lose everything. Then extended family members I barely knew started calling aunts and uncles and cousins who never showed interest in my life before. Some tried gentle persuasion, others outright demands. One cousin I had not spoken to since high school admitted my parents had promised her $20,000 for her wedding if I shared the money. I finally changed my phone number, cutting off the barrage of harassment, but the isolation felt overwhelming. For the first time, I truly had no family at all. The situation worsened when a local newspaper ran a story about the recent lottery winner in town. Somehow, my parents had given an interview painting themselves as abandoned elderly parents whose ungrateful son had struck it rich and turned his back on family. The article did not name me directly due to lottery winner privacy rules, but included enough details that people in our community could figure it out. The harassment spread online, with strangers sending hateful messages based on my parents' one-sided story. I received death threats from people who had never met me, all because they believed I was a heartless son, abandoning his poor parents and brilliant brother in their time of need. I hit rock bottom, questioning everything about myself and my decision. Was I the villain in this story after all? 3 days into my darkest moment, I received an email from an unfamiliar address with the subject line, "Riley, your parents did this before." The sender identified herself as Sophia, my father's sister, whom I had met only twice in my life. She had been estranged from the family since before I was born, for reasons no one ever explained to me. "Your father and I have not spoken in 30 years, she wrote, "but I cannot stand by and watch them do to you what they did to me and others. What they are doing has nothing to do with family loyalty and everything to do with control and entitlement." Attached to the email were scanned documents that made my blood run cold. Bank statements showing my grandparents had left me a college fund of $45,000 when I was 10, which my parents had quietly transferred to accounts in their names. Photos of a lake house property my father had convinced another relative to purchase jointly, only to force a sale when the relative could not keep up payments. Court documents from a lawsuit my mother had filed against her own sister over their parents' estate. Most shocking was a handwritten letter from my grandmother to me, dated just before her death, expressing regret that she would not see me grow up and hoping the money she left would help with my education. A letter I had never received. "I cut contact with your father after he took my inheritance," Sophia explained. "They labeled me the difficult one, the family troublemaker, just as they are doing to you now. It is a pattern they have repeated your entire life, favoring Travis while making you the scapegoat." Sophia offered not just emotional support, but practical help. She recommended a lawyer who specialized in both lottery winners and family law. She provided contact information for a therapist who helped her process her own family trauma. The sender identified herself as Sophia, my father's sister, whom I had met only twice in my life. She had been estranged from the family since before I was born, for reasons no one ever explained to me. "Your father and I have not spoken in 30 years, she wrote, "but I cannot stand by and watch them do to you what they did to me and others. What they are doing has nothing to do with family loyalty and everything to do with control and entitlement." The lawyer helped me draft a simple but firm public statement, setting the record straight about my family situation without revealing private details that would only escalate the conflict. My financial advisor helped secure my assets in ways that would protect them from frivolous lawsuits. We established a trust with clear guidelines about how the money could be used, ensuring no one could access it without my explicit consent. As I rebuilt my boundaries, the truth about my family began to emerge. Through Sophia and other estranged relatives who contacted me after seeing my statement, I learned that Travis had been rejected from medical school due to academic performance issues years ago. He had never been studying abroad as my parents claimed, but was living at home unemployed with gambling debts that explained my parents' desperate need for money. Their house, which they had claimed was nearly paid off, was actually in danger of foreclosure due to a second mortgage they had taken out to cover Travis's debts. Their retirement accounts had been depleted years ago for similar reasons. The $2 million they wanted for Travis's education was actually intended to pay off gambling debts and their own financial obligations. While all this information came to light, I made a decision to start fresh. The difference is, I handled mine alone, while Travis got bailed out repeatedly. My father's face contorted with rage. Enough. We are done discussing this. Either you sign over power of attorney to us to handle this windfall properly, or we will contest the lottery win in court. I stared at him in disbelief. Contested? On what grounds? You live under our family insurance policy, he said triumphantly. That makes your winnings partially ours. Our lawyer already confirmed it. The first year, we provided 5 full scholarships to deserving students with plans to expand the program as the investment grew. I also reconnected with Aunt Sophia in person, meeting her for dinner during a business trip to her city. The family resemblance was striking not just in our similar eyes and smile, but in our approach to life and problem solving. We began building a relationship that felt more genuine than anything I had experienced with my parents or brother. The healing process was not quick or easy. I spent months in therapy processing the neglect and emotional manipulation that had characterized my childhood. I learned to recognize unhealthy patterns in my other relationships and to build boundaries that protected my well-being. I worked through the guilt and doubt my parents had instilled in me, gradually replacing their critical voices in my head with my own confident one. I learned that family does not have to be defined by blood, but can be created through genuine connection and mutual respect. My circle of trusted friends grew, each relationship built on a foundation of reciprocity rather than obligation or manipulation. 1 year after winning the lottery, my life looked completely different, though not in the ways my parents had feared. I lived comfortably, but not extravagantly. My small tech company had secured its first major client, bringing both financial stability and professional satisfaction. I had a home where friends gathered regularly for dinner and game nights, filling the rooms with genuine laughter. The lawsuit my parents had threatened never materialized, as their lawyer likely informed them they had no legal grounds. Instead, they faced their own financial collapse when the bank finally foreclosed on their house. Through mutual connections, I heard they had moved to a small apartment, and my father had been forced out of retirement to work part-time at a local hardware store. Travis reached out to me directly about 6 months after our fallout. His message seemed genuinely remorseful, acknowledging his role in the family dynamic and his parents' manipulation. He had finally moved out of their house, gotten a steady job as a pharmacy technician, and started attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings. I do not expect your forgiveness, he wrote, but I wanted you to know I am trying to be better. I responded cautiously, offering neither money nor immediate reconciliation, but leaving the door open for a new kind of relationship built on healthier terms. We exchanged occasional messages, each one a small step toward whatever our future relationship might become. The greatest lesson I learned through this painful journey was the importance of standing firmly in my own worth. I moved to a new city 200 miles away, where I purchased a modest but comfortable 3-bedroom house in a friendly neighborhood. I invested a portion of my winnings in starting a small tech company with 2 former colleagues who had similar values and work ethic to mine. To honor the grandparents whose inheritance had been kept from me, I established a scholarship fund for students who lacked family financial support. Your story might help someone else find the courage to set healthy boundaries. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more real-life experiences, and share with someone who might need to hear that standing up for themselves is not selfish, but necessary. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember that sometimes the family we choose brings more love than the family we were born into.